first inaugural podcast for Maven with Dr. Taylor Lee, Dr. Ryan Carpenter, also coaches and fitness coach. Let's just talk very briefly about what we want to try to accomplish with this podcast. Taylor.
I think we've been talking and thinking about doing this for like a long time,
years.
right? A long time. Mm-hmm. But finally we have our gadget expert, and we're all pretty inexperienced with the whole podcast. I don't think none of us have ever done anything.
I've interviewed people before, so
I rarely listen
This
to podcasts.
is like my worst nightmare. Live recording, no do-overs.
No do-overs.
Yeah.
We may do some quick cuts if somebody like Taylor says something that he shouldn't be saying. But for the most part, it'll be long form-ish with just, conversations on health, fitness, rehab. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about New Year's resolutions. New Year's is coming up. And when the new year comes, typically people are motivated to set goals. Maybe you guys could talk about why that might be.
Yeah, I think it came up more recently with social media and the whole new year, new me. People during the holidays, they kind of get out of their regular routine and they're just kind of, flying by the seat of their pants, not really active as much, kind of being a little lazy. And then, when the calendar flips over, I feel like you just kind of get that urge to just reset, and everybody kind of gets all gung-ho about it the first couple months, but then people seem to fizzle out. And we see it a lot with obviously being a fitness company as well, is that we'll see new trials come in January, February, and then they kind of teeter out and we won't see them after that.
Yeah, I think it's just like has to do with the fact that people are always, we're all like eating like crazy during the holidays, and people are partying, drinking, very erratic hours, probably falling off the health and gym and fitness stuff, and they're looking for January 1st, and they're like, let's get back on track. So I think it's perfect opportunity for gyms to also like complement that with like crazy amount of marketing, right? And so I think it just feeds this engine of January 1st resolutions and promotions, and it just kind of works. And so
And we're guilty of that too.
Yeah. and then people dive in without knowing what they're getting themselves into. They go too frequent, they go too hard. Sometimes they get injured, whatever, and they burn out. And before you know it, a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months pass at max. And, as I would say, most people fall off. And so, that's the whole New Year's resolution thing. But
Yeah, so today we're going to try to talk about some ways for anyone looking to get to achieve some goals, health or fitness related, rehab wise, how they can be consistent and stay on track with some practical tips. First, we might want to talk about like why so many resolutions tend to fail or kind of fizzle out. Why do you think? Maybe speaking from personal experience, have you had any resolutions yourself that just didn't really stick?
Well, I haven't had a resolution in a while, personally, but as far as New Year's resolution. But I think the main reason people fail is because they set forever goals. Yeah, I think it's just like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this forever. And that, I think, is pretty much the foundations for failure for as far as fitness, health, and wellness goes. And so...
Yeah, I'd say we're probably one of the worst two people to ask about setting resolutions. I can't remember the last time I've done one, but I know from other people's experience, usually the burnout time is about 3 to 6 weeks, I would say.
Yeah.
You can fact check that on Google. But I would say people usually kind of fall off the wagon right around the end of January, mid-February. And that could be a multitude of factors too. But I think the biggest thing is, like Taylor mentioned, is kind of diving into it without really knowing a direction of where you want to go.
Let's talk more about the forever goals. What do you mean by that? Because it's not like you guys both don't have goals. You both have many goals: business, fitness, health, family, things like that. So like, what do you mean by forever goals?
Well, let me correct myself. I don't know about forever goals, but I think they just don't have concrete goals or even have a timeline or nothing. It's just like I'm going to join a gym. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to get healthy. It's just like there's no details. There's no specifics. And I think it's when it's too broad and too general and too it looks endless.
Right.
Then I think it's problematic. Yeah.
Yeah, or even like with the people who have a little bit maybe more objective goals where they say like I want to lose 20 pounds, this year, but they still don't have that direction of okay, do I want to lose 20 pounds by summer? Do I want to lose it by the end of this year? And they don't have anything to kind of keep them going along other than just that 20-pound goal or whatever it is with health and fitness.
So too vague.
Too vague, but not any checkpoints, so to speak.
Milestones.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the other thing is like when you're talking about like health and wellness, I think the world, just like humans in general, not like robots like us, but humans in general, right? I feel like you're looking for fun, right? And so I think within like 4 to 6, 7, 8 weeks, I think the fun kind of runs out, and the excitement of it and
An emotional component too. I feel like there's a big emotional component.
Yeah. There was all you dove in, you were like, wow, let's go, and then I feel like all that stuff kind of starts fizzling and starts fading, and now you're left with the actual work part and the consistency part and being disciplined, and I think that's when it's just really easy to just give up. And
So oftentimes people are highly motivated at the start of the new year, start of the new month, at the start of a challenge, but maybe not necessarily disciplined. Maybe if like there are roadblocks, so roadblocks including a lack of motivation, when things get hard and less fun, or the novelty wears off. Or maybe one thing that we often see is that people kind of go all in at the start and they may injure themselves. They may not realize if it's fitness or health that being deconditioned for quite a long time and going all in. And I'm sure you guys have seen that a lot, especially as physical therapists who own a gym. So if you could speak on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big issue with motivation is that it can only last so long, right? When something is new and something has a lot of excitement around it, that's when we're almost at our peak with motivation. But once that kind of fizzles out and, like you mentioned, stuff starts getting tough and you start hitting roadblocks or setbacks, then the issue of, not having discipline or not having consistency or even, some accountability, I think that's where people really run into trouble, with the whole getting injured thing, not having, a specific plan, depending on what their actual goal is. But, we see all the time, not just, New Year's resolutioners, but also, just throughout the year, is that people will kind of jump back into activity if they haven't been active for a while, or start a new activity like a new sport, a new hobby. And without that direction and that plan, and even like, somebody to kind of coach them through it, we'll see a lot of those like overtraining or overuse injuries. So, I mean, it's not uncommon for us to see throughout the whole year, not just, the beginning of the year.
So what are some practical tips in light of that? Like one, we talked about being more specific with your goals. The other would be maybe easing into it, on-ramping.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add before. Was like, I think it's important to not be so extreme, in the beginning. I think it's important to just be a little more systematic and just kind of like be incremental and be progressive, right? And then I think the consistency is important. So like if you could be progressive and consistent, then I think the injury part is minimized quite a bit. But I think if you're not progressive and you're inconsistent, I think the injury risk goes up pretty significantly as far as what I've seen.
So let's say if we had somebody come in and they wanted to, get back into the gym, start their, their fitness journey again, and they wanted to lose like 20 pounds. Obviously, you're not going to tell them, hey, you need to come in 5-6 days a week to start training to really get on track, what would your advice be to them starting off that first month?
I mean, I would say definitely you need, if you have no idea what you're doing, then you wanna talk to somebody who does, right? And so you need guidance, you need supervision, you need some, even accountability kind of naturally built into it. And for someone to be able to know and assess and where you need to start, right? And so I think that's important. 'Cause a lot of people just get excited and they think they're capable. They think they're still in high school, physique and fitness level. And what happens is they just dive in, and it's just too much. And they don't even realize it sometimes until they even get home, and they get home the next day and they're paralyzed, and they can't move. And so I think if you know that if you have no idea, or it's been 2 decades since, or even just a year since you've actually exercised, then it may be a worthy investment to your time, energy, and money to just sit with somebody, even if it's a friend who just is a little more experienced or something, and just get a little guidance. Get a little guidance and get a little supervision and accountability in it. So.
Yeah, I think lowering your expectations or setting smaller goals at first might be more helpful in allowing people to be more consistent. One thing I really like is people setting 5-minute goals. So if they haven't moved all year or the past decade, go for a walk for 5 minutes and see where it takes you, things like that. Just setting smaller goals. And then also for the athlete, I think we've all seen people who come into the gym who are who are athletes and pretty fit back in the day, and then they go way too hard, and then they don't come back. So just having moderation in both the newer person and also someone who's previously been working out a long time ago. So we talked a little bit about accountability, that being an important aspect to staying consistent with your goals. How do you guys stay accountable to your fitness goals? What would your advice be to anyone else in terms of forming new routines, new habits, and using accountability as one of the tools to stay consistent?
I think for me, the biggest thing is, have somebody to work out with, especially if it's something gym related. If it's diet related, have either another person that's doing the same sort of, diet or whatever you're on. Because I think going it alone is really difficult because, again, you lose that motivation if you don't have that innate discipline. But a big thing for me, and this has kind of been since high school, is having something to work towards in terms of, an athletic competition, right? So back in the day, it used to be tennis tournaments, then it was, playing in college, then after that, then it would turn into, CrossFit events, and now high rocks. So just having something kind of on the horizon, not too far away, but something that's kind of close enough in the year that is going to give me that time to kind of ramp up my training and kind of switch gears if I need to, but also not too far away where I'm going to lose that motivation, that consistency. Because if you're training for a competition that's 7-8 months down the road, you get into that habit of, I can start my training. I can really start ramping up next week, and then next week comes, and I still have time. I can do it next month. So I think you really kind of fall into that trap of having something too far away and not too close. So just kind of find that right distance in terms of what you're able to really do in order to meet that goal or get into that competition.
Yeah, for me, I think. You got to own a gym. That'll hold you accountable, because it's part of your job also to kind of stay fit and at your peak. But no, I would say for me it would be. I think there's stages to self accountability. Where you're holding yourself accountable. I think that is probably when you've done fitness and you've really worked on discipline and consistency and intensity too, and you've done it over time for a long period of time, and it just becomes kind of an automatic thing, and you could just switch it on and off relatively easily, right? And so for me, I think I am at that point where, when I need to do it, you just you just do it. You don't overthink it. You just start taking steps. You just dive in. But I think for those who are just kind of new at all of this, I think what's important is you need to find the right person to be not only like working out with you, but I think to be like, if anything, like work, accountability partner type of thing in the gym, right? When it comes to exercise and fitness, you need the right person. Sometimes you end up sabotaging each other. If you end up picking the wrong person to hold you accountable, and I think that's problematic too when it comes to New Year's resolutions and staying consistent in long-term, progress. Is I think you need to make sure that you pick the right person, not the person you just think is going to be fun to do it with. I think somebody who may be tougher, someone who might call you out.
Maybe a little bit more experienced.
Yeah, maybe more experienced, or the person is just maybe not as fit as you, but you could tell like that person's just serious about what they want to do, and it's not just about
Good mindset.
yeah, like trying the new thing, or let's try that gym, or that kind of. It's just more just about, hey, I really want to do this. I really want to do it with you. Let's do this together. And I think if you could find a right accountability partner with fitness and health, then I think you significantly increase your chances of succeeding. Yeah.
Yeah, and then eventually what we see often is that person who might have looked to somebody else for that inspiration and accountability, they end up becoming that person for someone else.
Yeah.
The other thing that you mentioned is owning a gym, setting an example. But I think from a family standpoint, as a mom, like and any other parent, you kind of can't be a hypocrite, right? Asking your kids to be healthy and physical and active, and you yourself not doing that, right? And setting an example yourself. So I think even just setting the standard for your family, setting that example for your family is a good way to stay accountable. What else do we want to talk about? So maybe we can summarize some key takeaways for being consistent with our goals. One was being specific, having accountability.
Good accountability, yeah. The right accountability.
And then
reasonable goals.
Yeah, set
goals.
more short-term goals. Like, going back to the whole weight things, I feel like that's everybody's kind of, New Year's resolution is, you want to lose some weight or you want to get back in shape. I think just having like, other than having a plan, having those short-term goals, like maybe you want to lose 20 pounds by the end of the year, but you haven't been losing weight the first 3 months, and then all of a sudden starts catching up to you. So just kind of having that, like, that checkpoint, like, okay, by February, I want to have lost 3 pounds, and make them realistic goals too, right? Like if you're someone who doesn't really have much to lose, don't set an unrealistic goal of I want to lose like 30 pounds when you have maybe 5 pounds to lose, right? Or even just anything like I want to run a sub 4 hour marathon, but you can't even run a mile, right? Start off smaller, make it more attainable goals, and that's kind of something we always really try to focus on in physical therapy as well, is making sure that the patients and us are setting realistic expectations from the first session, and making sure that they understand the plan going forward, and that we're not going to try to set these unrealistic expectations of them or ourselves, right? Because we're not miracle workers. The body is very complex.
Yeah, I think this one, it just came to my mind, is like, I don't know, I think it's very difficult to do, but I think if you could think this way, or set goals this way, would be very helpful, is like not being consumed so much with the quantitative goals. I don't know if I'm going to use the right terminology for this, but quantitative, but more qualitative goals, where like an example would be like, I feel like just horribly tired all day, right? Or my I don't know, my energy levels up and down extreme levels all day, or I can't go up and down stairs without feeling like I'm gonna just have a heart attack. Like just those types of things and those types of I think factors and I guess measurements that are not so numerical. I think if you could kind of remember those as well, I think is a little bit more, as I just look back at like working with private clients, over the years, and, I think people who are very consumed with like weight or like, numbers, like I want to get down to this number, like 100 pounds or whatever. I just feel like I've seen most of those people not achieve it, and they usually fail pretty quickly. I think it's because sometimes your body doesn't work that way. Sometimes the road doesn't go that way, and it doesn't go to those, those slopes of improvement where like you want to, you have expectations, and when they're not met the way that you're envisioning it should be met, then it's just easy to quit. It's demotivating. And so I think if you kind of focus a little bit more on the qualitative style of goals, and I feel like that's a little bit better at just giving you that just the evidence that things are helping, rather than just concrete. Yeah, concrete, numerical, objective goals are important, but I think it's important to remember.
It's just one metric.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to give yourself some grace too. Like,
Yeah.
Throughout a year, a lot of stuff's going to happen. You're going to have ups and downs. But I think what you were saying, like going based more on qualitative for, let's say, the client that wants to lose 100 pounds, is that maybe they weren't doing anything before, but now they're at least able to go to the gym consistently 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah.
They're able to go up and down stairs or get out of like a car with like, not any aches and pains.
Yeah.
So I think giving yourself some grace is really important, especially for a very long journey, if you're setting like a year-long goal. And it's often hard to kind of look at, frame by frame, and, you only kind of see the end point, like I haven't reached my goal yet. But you got to kind of look a little bit deeper into it and be like, I wasn't doing any physical activity at the beginning of the year. Now I'm at least going to the gym, semi-routinely. I've been, lifting heavier weights. I've been running faster. I've lost some weight. But people are, often too hard on themselves. And I think that's just human nature, is that we set this one goal that we have, and we feel like if we don't reach that, it's failure. And oftentimes that can kind of even set you back even further, especially if it's a very emotional tied goal to that.
So finding the small wins,
Yeah.
right? Not necessarily tying your success to the number on the scale, but maybe how you feel going about your everyday life, the quality of your life.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's see. Did you guys want to add anything else? I feel like we covered quite a lot.
I realized through this first podcast,
My biggest fear is that didn't record.
Oh, yeah?
I'm just gonna check.
I realized ADD is pretty big. Like every time we're like discussing and talking, it's like my brain is just like trying to figure out, like, okay, there's so many, I was like, yeah, there's like so many things that are going on in my head that I'm like, and then I'm like, it's just like, I'm dazing off, like, and I'm realizing my ADD is pretty bad.
I would concur.
I feel like Brian will keep us on track though.